We have a Craftsman 22-inch electric start snowblower here. The belt and the idler pulley are going bad on them. I have already checked this out. I have confirmed that that's what the issue is. I'm going to show you how to replace that nice and quick and easy, and everything you need to do that. So this is a Craftsman 247-887-790. One of the very common models. It is one of the ones that MTD and Troy Bilt use a lot also. If it looks like this, probably chances are it's the same thing. So a lot of different brands, makes, and models. They use them: Bolens, MTD, MTD Pro, a lot of different ones. You're only going to need a couple 9/16 wrenches, a 1/2 inch wrench, and then a 5/16, some sort of socket. This one's actually already out on this one. I don't know, I don't think it was here, but you'll need it to unscrew. There's one screw that holds the plastic cover for the front on. You'll need that if yours has that in. A lot of times if people take them out, they don't put them back in because the clips hold them in place. So in order to get this plastic cover off the front to replace these, you'll just push in on the two clips and pull this up. I'll get to that in 1 second. The belt number is a 954-04014. The belt for the auger. And then the idler pulley is a 684-04358. So this idler pulley, it does go bad quite often. And you'll hear either the bearings in it, that or you'll get some wear around the edge real bad. This one just kind of doesn't look great right out of the package, but it feels nice and tight. It is new, but wow, it's just quite a bit of stuff on there for a brand new unit. But anyway, push this in on that side, and then you do the same on the other side. You just push the tab straight in, and everything pulls straight up and off of there. So up and kind of out at an angle. Now this is kind of difficult to get back in. I'll show you how to do that also. The belt. Now I do always like to match up the belt to the old one, make sure it is the right size. This looks pretty good. But if you don't do that, you don't know what you're dealing with, and you could have the wrong size belt. So this here, the idler pulley, if it spins real fast, you hear a bunch of noise from it, or it's got grooves in it, if you put a new belt on this, all that's gonna do is it's gonna ruin your belt pretty quickly. So all we need is a couple 9/16 wrenches to take that off of there. Now the belt on this one's broke, so it's already off. Normally you can just slip the belt off over the top here, get it out of the way before you do this. I will get all set up and all right. So again, just two 9/16 wrenches will get you nice and easily done. Now, I do want to mention that on here there is a notch to where when we put it back together, we can adjust the tension if we need to. So normally it's in the right spot anyway, but there is a tension adjustment on here, two different spaces where you can put it in. So if you're having issues or anything like that, you can change that position. But normally it's in closest to the auger in that hole, as opposed to further out, which you'd have to take the unit apart to get to. So once you hold your bolt on the back side, unscrew it, there is a washer that comes off. Pop that straight on out. That side, washer comes straight on out there. And then you're just gonna go ahead and pull the idler out. So straight out there also. Pay attention to the orientation. This one goes right back on like that. Now if this spacer comes out with it, which it will sometimes, if it breaks free, it's just a spacer sitting there. If that breaks free and gets stuck in the pulley, you'll just have to remove it. So you do want to make sure, I always like to take it out and make sure that it fits nice and snug in here. If it doesn't, you'll just sit there and you'll spin on the inside of the bearing as opposed to turning the bearing itself. So that can go back on. We'll get the washer. And if it's turning there, all it's going to do is end up burning up that bearing right again. So you'll be right back in the same boat. We'll go ahead and tighten these back up. All right. Well, that nice nice and snug. It should roll smoothly though. You don't want it to roll too smooth because that would mean your bearings and stuff are bad. It shouldn't just keep going. It should be you should be able to feel that grease in that bearing. So from there, there's a keeper down on the bottom. You can see it straight through. We're gonna flip this up. It's basically on its face. So if we come over, what we're gonna do is we're gonna just flip that straight up on its face. It's not too terribly heavy of a unit, so it makes it a lot easier when that's the case. And then we're to our belt keeper right here. So that's gonna take a 1/2 inch, and it's just gonna unscrew directly out of there. You'll take it all the way out, and that's your belt keeper on the bottom, just to make sure when your belt is disengaged that it doesn't jump off the pulley here. There is your brake that sits there also. You want to check that out. Make sure that it's not wore down or anything, because if it's all the way worn out, your unit won't stop when you turn it off. Get out of the way a little bit better here. So now that that's off, what we're going to do is we're going to go ahead and slip the belt on the bottom, and you can move this. You can either push in on the pulley, you can pull the handle up top, or you can pull right here, and you just want that pulley to be, or the belt to be on the inside of the brake, and you want it to be on the inside of the keeper. So as long as it's there, we're going to go ahead and just tighten that back up. Do be careful when you have this tipped up. A lot of times they like to leak gas and things like that, and you won't notice them until it's all over the floor. If your fuel tank's real full or anything like that, sometimes you will get some leaking. That, or if your carburetor gaskets are bad or anything like that, just be aware of that. That way you don't start a fire. Get that nice and snug. Again, double check, make sure everything's good there. And you want to check the spring action of this. Your spring at the back side that goes from here over to this side should be in good shape. If it's not in good shape, now's the time to replace that while you're here. So we're going to flip it back down. And then we're going to finish everything else up over here. Looks like my table just came down a little bit. Okay, so on this side, we see it nice and easy. We can take this belt, and you just want to push it over to the other side. So just like that, through, over, and around. So it goes right around to the pulley. Now you can spin the engine and things like that. You do want to make sure that you have the key out of it if you're doing that though. If you're going to spin that pulley over, you want to make sure you have that key out, that way you don't actually start it. Accidents do definitely happen, so I'm going to show you just a different angle over here, a little bit closer up with the belt. So the belt's off. You want to just flip it. You can either do it from this side, turn it over, or you can do it from the other side and turn it over. So from there, up top, you want to make sure it's on this side of the pulley. It's on all the way around there. Make sure that your spring's in good, not touching anything. When you pull this tight, everything should tighten up and everything should be on. It should be in the grooves everywhere. This is all looking good. You do want to make sure that this wheel is not worn out. This should spin freely. So this one's a little bit tight. I'm going to spray just a little bit of lube on that once we get everything back together here. It does look like I leaked a little bit of gas while I was up, but it wasn't too bad. So from there, we can just go ahead and throw our cover back on. Now again, with this, you want to put it kind of down in at an angle. This piece comes in to this side first. It's the only way to do it good. Let me get that. I'll get that table off that other one. Quit bouncing around. So here, put this side in first. and it comes down, you want to make sure that the cable here sits on the outside. So it goes in this little groove right there, and then everything just snaps down and in. All right. Got that side. Now it should lock in there. You shouldn't be able to just pull it up. I did miss the pulley or the cable there, but now we're good. So when you pull it, everything should be getting tight. It is, it's getting nice and tight. Now you can check that from the inside also while you have it off if you'd like to. And that'll tell you whether you need to adjust outside or not. So we're getting tension from about there in. So that's plenty of tension on your spring. If you see good tension there, you're good. Otherwise, at the back side, sometimes you do have to allow it a little bit more tension in order to not have your belt slip. That's what I'll show you next. Put that back in real quick. It's a pretty easy process overall on this one. Not too many obstacles, not too many wrenches, not too many things that do go wrong, but it is, if you don't know exactly what you're doing, it is kind of difficult. So if you want to adjust anything, if you want to adjust that tension, what you can do is you can take these two bolts here, you can take those loose. They're just 10mm bolts. If you take those loose, you can move this adjustment further back to the right here if you want it tighter, or to the left if it's not so loose. Well, this one's already all the way forward, so you can't move it anymore to the left. But if you're not getting enough tension, or if you're slipping, you're both slipping or anything like that, you're gonna wanna add tension here. So, again, what that looks like, you just loosen your two 10mm bolts. Looks like they're actually 3/8. Craftsman loves to do that to you sometimes. Everything else on the unit's pretty much 10mm, except they like to throw their 3/8 in there. Got to throw some standard bolts in somewhere, I guess. So anyway, if you wanted that tighter, you just move that whole assembly back. That essentially just makes that cable tighter. That's all it does. It makes you start further. I'm gonna adjust it a little bit tighter than what it was. Now from there, once we start this unit, everything should work just perfectly. You shouldn't have any issues. You can go ahead and start and test it now. You do want to make sure that the auger doesn't turn whatsoever and that that cable's not real tight so it can turn without pulling the lever. The idler pulleys and idler pulley and the belt are working good now. Now that noise you're hearing out of this thing is coming from these side bearings. So what you can do to quiet that down some is you can go ahead and lube those up. We use a penetrating grease, delayed viscosity interlube is what we like to use. It works great just to kind of get in there, quiet everything down. It goes on real thin and then thickens up. So now that we've let it sit here a little bit, I'm going to go ahead and fire it back up, show you that it's quieted down some for sure. The gearbox oil can also be replaced, but you'd want to remove this whole assembly to make sure you've got a good amount in it. You don't want to just pump it full of grease. I see a lot of people throw some 80-90 gear oil in it, which isn't going to hurt anything whatsoever. You can top it or pull this off the top. I like to use just a screwdriver to go ahead and stick it down in there, check the oil level. See if you're getting any oil. Looks like we've got some, definitely some grease in it. That's normally what it's going to use as a grease, but I do see a lot of people put a gear oil in it. Never really have any issues with them. They usually shuck out when you hit something extremely hard and you've replaced your shear pins with bolts or something like that, as opposed to the shear pins that they should have. So see what this does for our hasn't quieted down all the way, but it's definitely a lot better than it was. You know, the grease is finally thickened up now. So that should take care of your belt and your idler pulley for any of these Craftsman, MTD, Troy Bilt units, Bolens, Yardman, all those good things. Thanks for watching. Like and subscribe.